By the spring of 1942, the Japanese Imperial Navy had swept across the Pacific with almost zero resistance. Their expansion moved like a well-oiled machine, swallowing territory from Southeast Asia to the edges of the South Pacific. This map shows their next objective, a vital base at Port Moresby, New Guinea. Capturing this single position would place Japanese bombers directly within striking range of the Australian mainland. But the Japanese fleet was sailing into a trap. American intelligence teams had already intercepted and decoded enough naval traffic to know exactly where the invasion force was heading, eliminating the advantage of secrecy. Armed with this intelligence, Admiral Chester Nimitz committed two of America's few remaining aircraft carriers, the USS Lexington and USS Yorktown, to intercept the Japanese advance. A direct comparison of the ships destroyed shows the immediate toll of the clash. The outcome heavily favors Japan. The United States lost a massive full-size fleet carrier, while Japan sacrificed only a small light carrier. On paper, this is a clear tactical defeat. So how did a battle that cost the U.S. Navy one of its most valuable ships trigger the decline of the Japanese Empire? The Battle of the Coral Sea broke a centuries-old tradition of naval combat. When the planes launched off these flight decks in early May, it marked the first time two fleets fought an entire battle without a single surface ship ever seeing the enemy. This tactical map illustrates the scale of this new warfare. Hundreds of miles of ocean separated the carriers, replacing artillery with aerial hunting. This created absolute chaos. Pilots flew in massive loops, struggling to locate the enemy beneath thick clouds. When they finally dropped their payloads on May 7th, the results were mixed. American dive bombers managed to sink the light carrier Shoho, while Japanese pilots wasted their ordnance on an American oiler and a destroyer they had misidentified as major warships. This initial, frantic scramble proved that when you can't actually see the enemy, accurate information becomes more valuable than raw firepower. The blind hunt ended on the morning of May 8th. The main carrier groups finally locked onto each other's coordinates, and the sky filled with dense anti-aircraft flak as massive waves of enemy bombers descended. The American fleet absorbed severe punishment. The USS Yorktown took a direct bomb hit, while Japanese torpedoes and bombs tore into the USS Lexington, triggering a series of uncontrollable internal explosions. The Lexington burned for hours before she was scuttled. She was the first American fleet carrier lost in the conflict, representing a massive blow to U.S. morale and immediate combat capability. Battered and down a capital ship, the remaining American forces retreated southward, leaving the Japanese Imperial Navy in control of the immediate battle space. Between the sinking of a massive enemy carrier and the retreat of the American forces, Japanese military leadership believed they had just secured another decisive victory. Judged solely by a tally of sunken ships, Japan won. But shifting the focus to strategic objectives reveals a different victor. Despite taking out the Lexington, the Japanese carrier force had absorbed enough damage that they could no longer provide the necessary air cover for their troop transports. Without protection from the sky, the invasion fleet abandoned the Port Moresby operation and retreated. This retreat was a major milestone. After months of sweeping conquests, this was the absolute first time a major Japanese advance had been turned back. Admiral Nimitz traded a valuable asset for a critical result, the security of Australia. Denying the enemy their strategic objective proved more valuable than preserving an intact fleet. But the Japanese paid an even steeper, hidden cost in the Coral Sea, one that would cripple their next major offensive. It centered on two massive carriers, the Shokaku and the Zuikaku. During the exchange of bomber runs, the Shokaku suffered severe structural damage, while the Zuikaku lost nearly all its veteran air crews. Both ships survived the battle, but they were combat ineffective for weeks. This chart compares the carrier forces intended for the Midway operation just 1 month later. Because of the damage sustained in the Coral Sea, two massive blocks are crossed out, leveling the numerical playing field for the battle that would turn the tide of the war. While the Japanese carriers sat in dry dock waiting for fresh pilots, the Americans operated with desperate adaptability. The damaged USS Yorktown was rushed back to port, hastily patched up in a matter of days, and sent directly to Midway to fight again. The Battle of the Coral Sea proves that victories aren't always defined by what you destroy, but by what you prevent. Ultimately, by sacrificing a carrier to stall an invasion, the United States quietly predetermined Japan's doom at Midway.